Hey everyone, it's Tim from Linessa Farms Specialty and Heirloom Livestock. Thanks for joining us again today. What do you know about hybridization in sheep and goats? Some of you may know quite a bit, others might not know as much as they think they do. You're going to want to stay tuned to learn more. Hey everyone, it's Tim from Linessa Farms, Specialty and Heirloom Livestock. So I've been getting a lot of questions recently about hybridization, how hybrids are made, what hybrid actually means. Someone named Jenny from Georgia actually sent us an email and she said, hey Tim, what's the difference between an F1 hybrid and an F2 hybrid? And then we got another email from someone that was asking us about black Nose Valais sheep, which you actually can't get in the United States, but all of a sudden it seems like they're starting to pop up and people want to know, well, how can this be? So we are going to talk about that right now. So hybridization, very simple. In this case, we're going to use two completely different types of sheep. Let's say that you want to breed a pulled Dorset, a shorter, white-faced, white-nosed sheep to a Hampshire sheep, which is generally a little bit taller, a little bit bigger, black nose, black hooves, blacker face. So, all right, so let's get started with that. So on this side, we're going to have our Dorset. And on this side, we're going to have our Hamp. And we want to breed those two together. So when we bring those two together, one side's going to give 50% genetics, the other side's going to give 50% genetics. And that's going to give us our 100% down here. And that baby is what is known as an F1 hybrid. And what that stands for is the first filial generation. That's what this F1 is. This F1 should be a good healthy mix of the Dorset and of the Hamp. Now when we use and hear terms like hybrid Vigor, that's what this is talking about. You know, when you look at a Dorset as a whole, what this is this is a breed standard that's been set by someone or something, and they say, well, it's supposed to be about this size, it's supposed to look this way, it's supposed to have these characteristics. And so what you get from that is you actually get inbreeding. You get a set group of genetics that keep getting bred back in and back in and back in and back in. So the thought is, and they really don't know for sure why this happens, but the thought is when you bring these two gene pools together that haven't been together in a long time, you get this hybrid Vigor. The animals tend to grow faster, they tend to grow bigger, they tend to be healthier, they tend to last longer. So if you've ever heard someone tell you that mutts, which is a mix of two breeds of dogs, actually are healthier and live longer, they're probably not wrong. That is actually hybrid Vigor. So in this case, our farmer said, well, I like the Dorset and I like everything about them, but I need a little bit more size and structure, and so I want to add this Hamp in. And so we get our F1 hybrid. So now we have our F1 hybrid, and now we have some choices that we can make. If our farmer primarily raises Dorsets, let's say, and they really want this gene to kind of get back and get cleaned up back into the Dorset again, they can actually back breed this F1 into a Dorset again. So in this case, we have an F1 hybrid, which is actually 50% Dorset. And it is going to get bred back into another Dorset, which I don't need to tell you this, but this is 100% Dorset. And when we breed those together, we now end up with what's called an F1B. And that B stands for backbreeding, but it's not just enough to know that it's backbred. You want to know what it's backbred to. So now this F1B is actually 75% Dorset and 25% Hamp. Okay, so that's an F1B. Breeding an F1 back to one of the parent breeds makes it an F1B. So what is an F2? Well, an F2 is as simple as this. An F1 and an F1 of the same mix. So in this case, we had our Dorset, we had our Hamp, and they bred together and they made our F1, if I were to have another Dorset and another Hamp over here that had an F1, and we breed those F1s together, we now get an F2. That is how you get an F2 hybrid. And the same thing, an F2 bred to an F2 now gives us an F3. And we don't really usually use the term F4, F5. Normally anything beyond breeding F2 to F2, we refer to as F3. Now you can have the B here as well. You can have an F3 that's been bred back to an F2. You can have an F2 that's bred back to an F1, so on and so forth. So when you see these F1, F2, F3, you also want to know and pay attention to if there's a B there. And if the B is there, you want to know what that B means. What does that really mean when you look back in the pedigree? Okay, they're backbreeding it, but what are they backbreeding it to? Now, this is where the Black Nose Valais comes into play. So for those of you that don't know about the Black Nose Valais, you should look it up. It's a super cute, super cuddly sheep that's over in Europe, and you cannot bring them into the United States. But we have found a workaround for that. And that involves backbreeding. So let's take a look at what they're doing. They can get, so with the Black Nose Valais, with the Black Nose Valais, from this point on, we're just going to refer to it as the BNV for short. They can get sperm from these guys, and they can import it into the United States. So what they're doing is they're taking a Scottish blackface ewe, and they are impregnating her with the Black Nose Valais sperm. So we've got 50%, we've got 50%, and we are breeding them in, and we're getting an F1 hybrid between Scottish Blackface and Black Nose Valais. And now guess what we're doing? So when we look at this, we have 50% and 50%. So now you say, Tim, well, how do I increase this and decrease this? Well, that's very easy. I take this F1 and I breed it back into another Black Nose Valais. And guess what's happening? And you're going to see this. This is kind of cool. So now what we've got is we've got an F1 hybrid that is made up of the Black Nose Valais and the Scottish Blackface. And we're again going to get another Black Nose Valais sperm, and we're going to breed them again. Hopefully, of course, this is a ewe, because if you have males, it's not going to do you any good. So we have this ewe and this, and guess what do we have here? Well, this one is 50% Black Nose Valais. This one's 100% Black Nose Valais. They have another female that, again, this is an F1B, but guess what? This one is now 75% Black Nose Valais. And guess what they do again? They breed that back again. Now they have an F1B, and now they're going to do the same thing. Black Nose Valais with the sperm, breed the two together. This one is now 75% Black Nose Valais. This one is 100. They breed them together to get another F1B. I refer to it as an F1B1 with the little exponent 1. And guess what? This one is now 85%. And we can do this again. And by the time we get down to, this is what it looks like. So our first F1 is 50%. Our first F1B is 75%. Our F1B to the first power is now 85%. F1B2 is 92.5%. And then at this point, we're almost 100%. Anything over 90 would be considered on paper, 100% black Nose Valais. If you want to get really crazy and get an F1B4, or excuse me, an F1B3, now this next one you're getting into 96.5. So you can see you're losing power in your jumps every time. Your increments get smaller and smaller, and you're never, ever, ever, mathematically, that's kind of a mathematical conundrum, the way that it goes on and on and on forever, but essentially you're never actually ever going to get to 100% black Nose Valais. But at this point, this F1B to the third power, you're at 96.5% black Nose Valais. And so what people are hoping, since they can't actually have them here in the United States, is they're going to continue to do this until we've developed this hybridization of the black Nose Valais here in the United States through the use of the sperm and these F1 base pairs, and eventually we're going to get to where it's 96.5% or higher. And you can imagine how much work this takes, because not only do you have to hope that your F1 is a U, but then you have to backbreed that F1 and hope that you have another U, and when you have that one, you have to hope that you have another U. And so, you know, at any point in time, you could lose a baby, or the pregnancy might not take, or you have males, and it just screws the whole thing up. So the amount of record keeping, the amount of time, and the amount of energy that it takes to actually breed this down to get back to this true black Nose Valais genetic pool is extremely cost prohibitive and time prohibitive. So I'm expecting you're going to be seeing, you know, F1B to the third powers, things like that, going for thousands and thousands of dollars. But hopefully this helps to explain to you what in the world is going on there with hybridization. So a lot of deep weeds information again, but I know a lot of you love it. So we got a lot of cool videos coming up soon. I hope you watch our channel. We're going to continue to roll them out as fast as we can with the time that we have allowed for us. So I'm Tim from Linessa Farms, specialty in heirloom livestock. Thanks for watching us again today. We greatly appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you again next time.